What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. Yeah, there's something I've been wanting to talk about, but it's been a little bit difficult for me to put it into words. But somebody has to say it, and that is that the party's over for millennials. A lot of people don't realize it. And I think that's why when you scroll through your timeline, you see a lot of doomers. You see a lot of people talking about their different grievances when it comes to politics or women, or if it's a female channel, maybe they're talking about men, or, some sort of social issue. You see all these people expressing their grievances. You could just say they're complaining on the internet. And they all typically tend to be people between the ages of 28 and 43, I would say, millennials. And somebody has to tell them the party's over, right? So let me start with this. At 11:59 p.m. on December 31st, 2019, the party ended. Do you remember what the world was like in 2019? If you're a millennial, even if you're not, if you're a Gen Z, the party never started. But if you're a millennial or older, do you remember the way the world was in 2019? I remember it very vividly, and it's not rosy retrospection. It's legitimate. I remember going to the gym 6 days a week, bench pressing 315, higher than that sometimes, squatting and deadlifting 405. All the hot girls smiling and waving at me, fist bumping my bro at the gym. We lived a high testosterone lifestyle. Millennials were very into gym culture, if it fits your macros, bodybuilding.com. Some people did CrossFit. These are all buzzwords for millennials. Just like beer pong or calling your girlfriend bae, B-A-E. Girls wearing leggings and Uggs. These are millennial things, right? But back in that time period, I would say anytime before 2019, anytime before the end of 2019, we didn't care about politics. I know the Trump train came through in 2016, but some people were excited and some people were pissed off, but we didn't care about your politics. You could go to a party and you'd have people on the left, people on the right. Nobody's concerned with politics. You're concerned with playing beer pong, bonging beers, and, hooking up with some chick. Right? That's the way we were. We would find ways to get along with people. We would find common interests, and we didn't care if we disagreed on things. We grew up on, I'll put it like this. When I was 18 years old, the way we threw a party was, typically a new CD would come out. Your favorite artist, your favorite musician, right? They come out with a new CD. You go to FYE, you buy the CD. You throw a party. You put the CD in the CD player. You're drinking beers, doing shots. Girls are dancing to the new shit. That's what we did. It was in our DNA to be that way. We grew up watching MTV, and we were just kind of like a curious social group. We did everything together. We wanted to get out there and party. And this may sound kind of weird, but for me personally, when I think of 2019, 2015, 2010, I see the sky being a very bright blue. I see it like a little bit gray nowadays. I see the trees being a very bright green, and the fall, bright orange. Vibrant colors. It was a very outdoorsy world, a very social world. Very exciting. A lot of fun to get together with people. And obviously, just after New Year's 2020, we all know the events that transpired, the things that took place. And we don't have to go into details about that. There was a lot of things that took place, and it was pure chaos for 2 years. But the world has been a blur for the last almost 6 years. So anyways, it's been a blur, hasn't it? Like if you think about the last 6 years, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and now 2025 is pretty much over with. Complete blur. It's like, where did the time even go? Well, what happened, and not just to talk about the real timeline events that took place, we all know. All the politics, all the things going on globally. I don't even like to use these words. They trigger people. All the division, all the information and disinformation and crazy stuff that was coming out. It screwed with people pretty bad. Okay, and this is the thing. You may have looked at your friends and family, even maybe yourself, definitely your coworkers, and these people might have been good friends of yours, right? You might have looked forward to seeing people when you walked into work, having conversations with them about random things. But what was happening was people would open up their phone and they'd go on TikTok or Twitter or wherever, and they'd go down a rabbit hole. They'd watch maybe 25 one-minute videos all about a particular subject. Very powerful, high-impact one-minute videos about politics or about female nature or dating and relationships or really anything, right? Name the conspiracy. They'd go down the rabbit hole. And they would come into work, you'd say hi to them, and they would hate you. They didn't want to talk to you. You now represent something that they saw on their rabbit hole, something that they're not supposed to be friends with, something they don't get along with anymore. Right? And you started to see this take place everywhere you go. Right? The people that used to smile and wave at you and fist bump you, now they're hesitant. They kind of look at you sideways. They're not as social anymore. And something you'll notice is if you were to document their political beliefs or their beliefs in a higher power or God or dating and relationships, if you were to document their point of view on all of these subjects, like every 60 days, you would see that their opinions on things or their whole identity would make these 180-degree shifts, these 90-degree shifts, these left to right to up to down, all over the place. And every time they would go down a rabbit hole and their perspective of the world would change, their identity would change, and who they trust would change, who they want to talk to would change, who they would vote for would change, who they would date would change. And it's like people were all of a sudden, these antisocial creatures, stuck on their phones going down these really weird journeys. And they're looking at information that isn't even backed by any source of authority, right? It's just like, it used to be a joke when you would say, you're just a dude in your mom's basement. Like in 2012, if somebody was uploading content and it was just a dude in his mom's basement, he'd get made fun of. But over the course of the last 6 years, people trust a dude in their mom's basement more than they trust somebody on the news, on the air, on antenna news channels. It's crazy, and the reason why I'm bringing millennials in particular into the picture is because right when that time period took place, the youngest millennials were about 23 and the oldest millennials were about 38. So the oldest millennials were right there at the end of their party phase. Some of them were married, settled down, and had careers. And for the rest of them, it was like now or never, do or die time. Either you meet that person that you're going to be with and you settle down, and you get your career going, or, whatever. Maybe you don't. But it's now or never time, right? And for the youngest millennials, they had just graduated college. They were in that age group. They were 23. So they were about to become professionals, managers and directors and all that. So what I'm saying is, this is the time period when it was actually getting close to being time for millennials to pass the torch. Every generation passes the torch, but usually it's a process, and you're well aware of the process, and you're ready for it. But for millennials, we were young in 2019, and then when we came back out of the house a couple years later, we were old. We were out of style. We were yesterday's news, and we didn't realize it. And you would see our women, and I'm not one of these people that likes to talk about women hitting the wall. Women in my age group have a legacy that I consider equal to my own in my life. They've made an impact on me. I grew up with them. They're very much part of, my culture, my identity, everything I grew up with. I consider them close to me. And I consider all millennials, we're tied together in a certain way. But when I look at the women in my age group, getting on their phones and uploading content, not in a way like, it's okay to share your thoughts. If you turn a camera on and you share your thoughts and you actually have interesting things to say, I think that's awesome. But when I see people just trying to get attention, like it's obvious when you look on their face. You see a 39-year-old woman and she just wants to be hot and she wants attention. She wants everybody to like her pictures and, treat her the same way they treated her when she was 25. But they're not going to do that. So you see this blank look on her face. She's just devastated and in shock because something took place. 2019, she was young. Then it's a blur. Nobody told her she was getting older. But suddenly, this is just how fate decided to pass the torch, right? We entered this new realm of people going through these rapid-fire mental transformations by going on social media. And people are confused, and they don't know where time's going. They feel lost. So you see these women out there doing that, and you see a lot of guys doing this too. And I have to really be cautious and look at myself in the mirror to make sure I don't become this. But a lot of guys, millennial guys that are like 40 years old, broke as a joke, fake flexing, right? Don't get me wrong. It's cool if you have a large following and you make a lot of money. You hustle. I respect it. But, it doesn't make you like the icon that you think you are, right? It's just a fake flex, really. Even if you make quite a bit of money, money's kind of fake anyways. It's a fake flex. I see a lot of guys doing this too, a lot of these like faux alpha kind of guys. And it's as if they don't realize the torch has been passed, you're not it anymore. The problem is we passed the torch to Gen Z and the party never started with them. They're worse off than we are from the get-go. And what's really crazy? The timeline that we were on was actually going on a pace that was set up for millennials to pass the torch in a really gracious way. Do you remember what was considered spicy in 2018, 2019 in terms of content? Like controversial content, like you would watch certain creators and be like, man, these guys are freaking based. I mean, get a load of this. Like, imagine how much things have changed in the last 6 years. In 2019, we considered Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan to be like based, edgy truth tellers. Clean your room. Make your bed. Don't forget to get the dirt from under your fingernails. Rinse your dishes off before you put them in the dishwasher. All right, the last two he didn't say, but clean your room and things like that. We considered that edgy when Jordan Peterson would tell us things like that because the metaphor was get your life in order, grow up, pay your bills, get out of debt, start your career, right? He had a good message, and nobody had really told millennials to grow up. They told us the opposite. They told us to go to college just to go to college. It's the best time of your life, right? Just go to freaking college. They didn't even tell us to pick a career. They just said go to college. So most millennials went to college, and most millennials didn't graduate, but they still got the college debt. They told us to have sex, as much sex as possible, and we did. But they said use condoms. So most millennials didn't start families. They said date around, Don't, especially they told women this. They said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Play the field. You go, girl. The world is yours. Date as many men as possible. And for the fellas, if you got it like that, if you're a big baller, shot caller, go out there and be a player. Hook up with as many women as possible. Right? Well, there was no incentives for us to start families or settle down or, the careers things most millennials thought would fall into place, and I really think they would have. And they did for some. But I just think we were right there in the ninth inning when it was time to make that move for a lot of millennials. And, as fate would have it, the world would become a blur and it would change. And now you see, guys, and Gen Z is even worse with this, but, they'll be sitting there watching alpha male podcasts or live streams, joining panel live streams. And that's how they socialize. That's how they party. And they sort of think that they're there. It feels like they're there, but it's really apathetic. Almost sociopathic, because you can't really empathize with people on a screen. I think apathetic is probably a better word. You're just sitting there going through the motions. But they're not experiencing life the way it was experienced previously. Now, of course, you can still beat it, but it requires balance and requires meeting the right kind of people. If you take a girl out, you just take her for a walk downtown, all the lights, all the noise and the activity and the bars, and just take her for a walk. You hold her hand. She'll become addicted to that. If you meet your buddies at the gym and you pump iron together, you meet each other for a drink, you'll all become addicted to that. You can find a way to have that balance, but the problem is, for a lot of people, it's just a distraction, right? All the devices and the social media is this massive distraction. If you think you're educating yourself, and by the way, this is why I can't tolerate watching anything, like if I turn on a video or a clip and I see a dude talking loudly into a microphone, I turn it off immediately. If I see him speaking, screaming, or they're debating, or they're arguing, or they're saying any type of content that gets my blood pressure up, I turn it off immediately. Because I know it's designed to get me hooked. It's designed to keep me watching. To interest me at first and then become part of my identity and have me watch it constantly and have me be like a parrot repeating their talking points out there to people in the real world, and it just changes who you are and it screws things up for you. And that's also why I personally don't like making that style of content. My style is old school. I sit out here and like literally it's the same stuff that was going on 10 years ago, right? But it's at least something that resembles a normal world, somebody, sitting here having a conversation with you. Because that's the only stuff I can really tolerate watching, because it's something you can watch, turn off, get back to your life. But when people go down these weird rabbit holes and they're hooked on them, spending hours a day watching, researching, they think they're really learning something. But no matter what it is you're watching, are you really learning something? Let's say it's politics. Are you really, like, if you're learning about things that are going on in the world, you only live, like, life is so short. And you'll realize that you have little to no control over any of that stuff. And the longer you spend distracted with that stuff, the less time you have to actually improve yourself, live your life, become better, conquer the game, so to say. And the distraction just, it takes that away from you. But, gosh, there was something else I wanted to say. You know how people say, just disappear for a year, right? Like the self-improvement space will tell you, just disappear for a year. And they mean it in like a very positive self-improvement kind of way. Like disappear, work out, eat healthy, save your money, come back a year later and you'll be unrecognizable and you'll be this amazing person, right? I mean, that's true. But what happened is, in particular with millennials 6 years ago, is, we in 2019, we all looked young. We were a gym culture. We counted our macros. We ate healthy. We were really focused on like living a healthy lifestyle. We like to party a bit, but we still like to be healthy. So we look a lot younger. But when 2019 ended, millennials disappeared, as everyone did. But instead of disappearing and working out and improving yourself and saving your money, millennials had disappeared and they were like trapped in a high stress environment cage watching crazy content. Just content that will change the way you view the world. They weren't working out. They weren't eating right. A lot of them even lost their jobs. So it's like they went away for a couple of years and came back 10 times worse. They aged. Millennials aged quite a bit over the last 6 years during this blur time period. And I'll tell you what, the best cure to that is to get your identity back. Pull yourself out of all that crap that you watch. A lot of it's AI anyways. Moving forward, you're going to see more and more of that. It's not even real people. So the best way to go about it is, to go out and take a walk. Maybe you can go with somebody or by yourself. Go take a walk out in the woods. Go take a hike. Go get a canoe and float down the river. I'm serious. Do something to get yourself in touch with nature. Have time to think. Not about politics, not about money, not about being an alpha male or modern women are delusional or whatever. None of those subjects. Get them out of your mind. Just you and nature, breathing the air, feeling your stress levels drop, your hormones go to a normal level, your blood pressure at a normal level, just a relaxed mindset, and think about what it is you would like to do. You know, what you would like to accomplish. Would you like a girlfriend? Would you like a couple of friends? Would you like to buy a house? Well, you know, those are big issues that guys are struggling with. Finding a girlfriend isn't hard. They want an authentic guy, not a guy that's reading some script from a dating coach. They want a guy that does it on his own. You know, you go up there and you're not afraid of striking out. You just do what you think you're supposed to do. Don't put yourself in compromising positions. Respect yourself, but trust yourself. You know, you want to buy a house, you want to save money. The financial system, a lot of people have a problem with it, but it's super easy to beat. You have no idea, if you're somebody that's struggling financially, you have no idea how easy it is to have $25,000 cash saved up, an 800 credit score, and any bank in the world willing to give you a mortgage. So easy. But anytime you have debt, like if you reached a point where you have things in collections or you're like behind on payments, like you're screwed. But when your head's above water, when you're caught up, it's so easy to stay caught up. It's so easy to, you know, basically turn things around. Within 6 months to a year, you can turn it all around. But you just have to get that identity back. Figure out what it is you want to do and take it one step at a time. Don't make the stupid decisions. Don't disrespect yourself by spending money you don't have. Don't disrespect yourself by going out with women that aren't good for you. Don't disrespect yourself by avoiding to make eye contact with a dude at the gym that could be your friend, that could have your back, that could help you fix your car. Two of you could have a beer and watch a football game. You know, the world's not so bad. And it's easy to accomplish these things as long as you are willing to, you know, just take it one step at a time. You don't even really have to have anyone teach you. It's all already right there in front of you. But, yeah, you know, it's crazy. But millennials are no longer the it crowd. The party is over for millennials. Fate sealed the deal at the end of 2019, and we never saw it coming. It's kind of eerie to think about, isn't it? When you think about 2019 and those bright colors and how great it was, and then suddenly, boom, curtains closed, show's over. That's real shit for a Friday night. But, you know, suppose that's the way life goes. Where do we go from here? I don't know. But the world is changing at a rapid pace, and that's a little bit crazy. The camera I'm using shuts off at the 30-minute mark, so I think I might go ahead and shut this one off, but I hope this video was somewhat informative, and that's about it for tonight, guys. Until next time, see ya.